So I thought I would share a little e-bike ride. This is a bike I built myself, and currently heading from near where I live to the city in Norwich. This is Hellesdon Mill Lane, and we're going to be joining an old railway track. That's going to take me straight into the city. I'm really finding the e-bike great fun. I'm finding it better for my joints. Before I was cycling, my knees and stuff started hurting, and I'm finding having the e-bike sort of takes that strain off my knees a bit. I've also sort of changed my feeting position as well, so that's really helped. So the kit I put on my bike, it's just a standard mountain bike, and it's the Voilmart 1000 watt front drive hub. I kind of wish I'd have got the rear drive, but I had a 1x system on the Shimano XT and I didn't want to remove that, so I went for the front. But the torque is quite surprising on this bike, so I fitted 2 torque arms to the forks, but I'm always wary of the forks, and I had to mill a bit of the material out of the forks when I actually put the wheel together, because it all wouldn't fit in a standard fork. So I'm keeping an eye on that. I've marked up the nuts, I've marked up where everything is, so I can keep a good eye on any movement that's going on, so I don't go flying over the handlebars. But so far so good. It's done 100 miles now, over 100 miles, so I'm happy with it. So we're now heading to join the railway track. This is a disused railway track which has been converted into walking and for cyclists to get into the city. So it's just here on the left, and it's a great track. It takes me around 10 minutes to get into the city on it. If I was driving, I'd be looking at 15-20 minutes minimum, so it's quite fast for getting into the city for me. The bike of course does the 15 miles an hour, maximum legal, and that's all I would ever do on it. It's a 1000 watt bike motor, but I've reduced it down to the 250 to make it road legal. I don't really want the 1000 watts all the time, but what I'm finding is the 1000 watts, when I'm going up a steep hill, it's really pulling hard. It is using 600 or 700 watts to pull me up the hill. The extra bit of power is really helpful for me, so that's really good. The battery I got was a green cell 17.4 amp hour 250 watt max 48 volt battery, and I'm finding I've been doing around 20 miles a time, if not more, and it's never really used any more than half the battery, so I'm finding the range on it, for me, absolutely fantastic. I rode it in Cambridge last Friday, and I rode for about 6 hours and I had absolutely no problems with the battery whatsoever. It was just fantastic. So the other downside of the Voilmart kit with the front hub motor is the disc brake. I had disc brakes, hydraulics on my bike before, and with the size of the hub I would need to get a very large rotor to fit in its space and bring the caliper right away from that hub. There's literally a millimetre clearance around it which is just too tight, so in the end I went for V brakes at the front, but I try not to ever use them V brakes at the front because I don't want to put no strain on them forks, so I'm trying to use the rear brake at all times and just not touching the front. But if I need to I would use it, but I really try not to put any sort of pivoting too hard on them forks. So this is a really good track, nice surface, a few bumps but not too many. Very busy at the weekends, but Sunday mornings going into the city on this track is just amazingly good. It's nice and quiet, and it's just great fun. Unfortunately, our weather at the moment here in the UK is not very good as normal, so we're experiencing sort of cold weather, but it's quite good for cycling. It's not raining. So if you've stopped cycling because of joint pain or because your limbs are hurting, I really recommend looking at these conversion kits for your bike, because it really does make a big difference to your joints if you can just take that bit of strain off. You may find it really works for you, so I highly recommend that. I'm getting older and I kind of needed that little bit of assistance. I've always cycled since I was about 8 years old, so some 40 years later I'm still cycling, so I do recommend an e-bike just to help you. You don't have to. I mean, I still pedal at all times, so it's really helpful for that. That's my old work there on the left, City Care or City Works as it was. Spent many years there. It was good fun, and it's a shame what happened to it. Dolphin Bridge. This is called Dolphin Bridge, heading still towards the city. This is Sloughbottom Park here on the right hand side. And it kind of feels wrong to take the car. I used to put the bike on the back of the car and drive somewhere to cycle, but with this, I just find it wrong to drive anywhere. If I go to places I try and cycle now, it really does change my thought process on the environment a little bit, and it just, instead of taking my big car outside just to cycle somewhere, you're not using the wear and tear on the car, etc. So it's just so much more nicer to look around as well than being stuck sitting in traffic. Deliveroo having a lunch break on their bike. It's amazing in Cambridge to see how many e-bikes and e-cars there was driving around, and it's just an amazing surprise to see how quickly people have adapted to this electric form of transport. It's much more healthier to cycle around and avoid them horrible bus fumes. And there we are, 10 minutes later. I've arrived in the city. There's Superwoman. We have a lot of superheroes in Norwich. It's quite cycle friendly, you know, there's toucan crossing here, so I can safely cross at this crossing. And having the e-bike as well, you can get across these roads much quicker than with, you know, having to start pedaling and get on the bike and remount it and all that sort of stuff. So I'm finding it really positive having this bike. So it took 10 minutes to get here. That would have took me 20 minutes plus in the car to sat at traffic lights and to have got to this place. So it's definitely quicker on bike. It's a sign of our times, eh? A COVID testing centre there on the left. Wessex Street car park has been turned into a testing centre. It looks quite empty, which is a good thing. Not many people queuing, so it's great to see. So here I'm on Westwick Street, and I'm going to be heading to St Benedict's. Where I'm going to head further into the city. I'm going to end up at Norwich Cathedral. That's my plan for now. And again, the council have spent some money on trying to make the city more cycle friendly, which is just so helpful to be able to have a separate lane. I know I'm going backwards on this particular lane, but you know, so you know, it's really helpful to have these little cycle shortcuts. It makes a big difference. So this is St Benedict's, and it's a cobble street. That's why I'm bouncing around a lot. And this street's been pedestrianised, which is fantastic as well. So it makes cycling on it much nicer. There's Cook's Band instruments. Spent many a penny in there buying drum stuff. And as normal, the pedestrians often don't hear bikes, or so I don't mind that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I just slow down and stay behind them. I'm in no rush to get anywhere, so let people enjoy their day. So I'm heading towards Pottergate now. And this old pub here on the left, I've had some good times in that pub. Is now shut, as most are in Norwich. I was going to turn right there, but the lanes are so busy with people that I avoided it. So I'm going to head towards the cathedral this way. Again, it's cobbly, so hence the bouncing around. So all these downhill bits, I don't use any motor power whatsoever. I just creep the bike down on the brakes. Because there's a lot of pedestrians around, just take it nice and slowly. I'm in no rush to just try and have safe cycling. I'm not going to be doing 25 miles an hour down there when there's people around pushing pushchairs. It's just too dangerous, so I'm happy just to take my time and be safer rather than causing any problems to others or myself. I've tasted the tarmac on numerous occasions cycling, and I don't wish to do it at this age anymore, so I'm more cautious. This is where the e-bike comes into its own, really, having that motor. When you're going up these hills, just taking that strain off your limbs, just using a little bit of throttle, pull yourself up, drawing sort of 600 watts up these hills. It's just so helpful. There was a friendly cyclist gave me a nod. People are normally very friendly, but what I found is that, interestingly, since I've had this particular bike with a motor on it, a lot of cyclists don't acknowledge me, where before they were very friendly. They're not so friendly towards e-bikes, I've noticed. They perhaps think that it's a bit of cheating or something, but I have done 40 years of cycling, so you know, it's nice to have a different type of cycling. And again, it's all pedestrianised, and you know, this is all for cycling, so it's really helpful to, you know, you really can get around much quicker on these particular lanes, and makes the cycling much nicer. So we're going to go through the arch now, through the gates into the cathedral. And how I understand it, this particular piece of road I'm now about to go on was actually part of the river. They used to bring the stone in, I believe it was from France or somewhere, to actually build the cathedral. They actually had tugboats coming up this particular piece of road. It was actually part of the river, and they used to bring goods in from Europe to for us to build our cathedral. But I might be incorrect on the France thing. I can't honestly remember. I did know exactly what it was, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So, what a view when the sky is blue. That steeple is just beautiful. Unfortunately, my camera's a bit, white balance isn't very good, so it's not particularly good shot. But I also didn't realise I had the tree on top of the spire. So, but anyway, that's the cathedral. Beautiful. This is the close. All very big houses, beautiful places. A mixture of some office buildings as well. So we're still in the close at the moment. We're heading towards Riverside. And these places here on the left are old stable buildings, which I think are going to be converted into properties very soon, from how I understand it. So the city's kind of losing its character a bit for the craze for property, and then any sort of small places being turned into residential places, which on one hand you could say is a good thing because the building's being repurposed, but on the other hand it kind of loses a bit of its character. That's Paul's Ferry in front. And now we're along Riverside Walk, heading towards the Law Courts. And again, it's a lovely route. It's very cycle friendly, so it's a pleasure to ride along it, and it's lovely to be in Norwich on the bike. It was very tempting here because the pub door was open and the pub was open, and it was immensely difficult just to cycle past. But I'm not really a drinker, so I'm not really bothered, but it looked very tempting and very nice. And that's Cow Tower in front. And there's a little seat there on the left, a lovely little seat which says Eternal Love on it. It's a really nice little carving. And that's Cow Tower there on the right hand side. And that's a new building there on the right hand side. It's KPMG's building. And that's the bridge they put in going towards it from the car park here on the left. So that's the Law Courts there on the left in Norwich. And these are all new buildings here on the right hand side, more residential places. It was formerly Gerald's print works, but again another big manufacturing loss for the city, and now converted land repurposed into flats. This is an old mill here on the right hand side. I think this is one of the nicest views in Norwich. When the sun is shining, it's just amazing with these willow trees hanging down and the bridge in the distance. So just stop for a second so you can just look at it. Unfortunately my camera doesn't really, the white balance on it is not great, so the sky is all blown out, but it's a fantastic view. Amazing old factory. This is Fry Bridge. This is the Law Courts here on the left still. This is a fun piece of cycling to try and negotiate these little switchbacks. And again, this is more residential places here on the right hand side. These would have all been industrial type places based off the river, with haylofts and stuff bringing goods into the city many years ago. But unfortunately that's all been repurposed into housing. But you can still see some remnants on the right hand side there in the distance of the old factories that would have been along here, with us making goods in the city and selling them on. So we're heading now towards Magdalen Street, then we're going to go to Elm Hill. A word of warning, when I get to Elm Hill it's all cobbles, so the camera's going to be a bit shaky, I'm afraid. I don't have any, I just have a solid mount on my handlebars, so I guess having it on my helmet would probably be better, but I'll sort that out at a later date. So it's going to be a bit bouncy, and Elm Hill, it's just where that red Land Rover's just come out of, that's where I'm going to head. This is a very picturesque, famous street in Norwich, very old. And you can see the cobbles, how bouncy it is. There's been some films and stuff made down the street over the years. Tales the Unexpected, I think, was used this location on numerous times. And a lot of that was filmed around Norwich. I think recently some film was made here as well, so we're back in the city, heading back the way I came. It's going to be exactly the same route. And it's an absolute pleasure to cycle on this route. So I'll leave the audio there. Hope it hasn't been too bad for you. And I hope you enjoyed some of it. And I'll leave you the rest of the video to watch of me cycling back. Highly recommend e-bikes. But not like £3,000 or £5,000 e-bikes. You can convert your bike probably for 180 quid for the motor and stuff. The battery's the most costly of all, so but it can be done, and it's a good upgrade for a bike, and it makes a big difference to cycling. I highly recommend it. People have different views of bikes, whether they're, it's classed as cycling still and stuff, but I don't care about that. It makes a big difference to me and enables me to cycle much further with great assistance, so I highly recommend it.